Hi, welcome to the Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut commentary. Here is Jean-François Dugas, the game director on the game, and I'm with...
Mary DeMarle, I am the lead writer on the game.
And I'm Jonathan Jacques Billetet, and I'm the art director.
And I'm Steve Shipkowski, I'm the audio director.
And we'll have probably some guests with us today. So, with the first cutscene, well, when we started this project, we were kind of like... It was important to us to have links to the X1, but we wanted it to be subtle. We didn't want it to be totally in your face, even though the first character you see is Bob Page.
but you're not supposed to know that.
We wanted it to be subtle, so the first thing we did was to do just that.
But what is strange, even with the die-hard fans, when they saw it for the first time, most of them didn't recognize him, even though we tracked back the real actor.
Yeah, we went out of our way to find the real actor. We thought it was important to keep the continuity and to use him, and we thought the hardcore fans would really like it. And I think the plan was to keep the guy really in the shadows.
Yeah.
And I remember I was with Dominique Demers, the lighting guy. I was darker, put it darker, and it was all constantly a debate at how much of his face we should see or not, and that was fun. Yeah, so now it's the cutscene where we're introducing Adam Jensen. Actually, this TV news is probably the only TV news that has some animated 3D in it, which was the original plan with those TV news. But as we figured out the scope of what we had to produce, and we had so much to do, and with all the other cutscenes and stuff, we quickly realized that we wouldn't be able to.
We wanted them all to be 3D.
I know that when I was writing it, I wanted it to be like, first you wouldn't even know you were watching the news. You were actually seeing like the stuff going on at the Capitol building, and then slowly you realize, oh, it's news. But what we kind of envision doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And then with Megan and her necklace, that was another very important part for us, because from a story perspective, we wanted to establish something that was a part of her, something that made her human, and that would have on this relevance, because eventually we had all these plans that like you might find it in the FEMA facility where she'd been taken and stuff. So it was a very important thing, but I think that we didn't necessarily communicate that right away.
This is one of the few little times that me and you didn't talk or something about it, because usually things went pretty well in terms of what you wanted and what I wanted. But so at one point it was like, we had her design down and everything. Megan was pretty much finished in terms of what she would look like. Then I think it was either you or JF, he came up and was like, where's her necklace? I'm like, what necklace? You're supposed to have a pearl necklace. I'm like, really? And I'm like, the whole thing's done. She has this big collar and she's all zipped up, and I'm like, where am I gonna put it? It's like, well, just put it over her clothes. I'm like, you don't put a necklace over clothes. But we ended up doing it, which I think looks I personally think it looks tacky, but it's fine. I mean, it works. It works in the sense that it did the purpose that it had to do.
You know, you really should get in the habit of locking your computer, Meg.
I know. Frank gets on you. Hey, stop reading my emails.
Wow, how long ago was this taken?
In grad school. Before I met you.
Back when you were hobnobbing with the rich and famous, I see. I wonder if Mr. Darrow remembers you.
God, I hope not. Are you coming?
In a second.
So internally, we've always referred to this section of the game as the walk and talk, and it actually wasn't the original opening for the game. We had a completely different idea for the opening to be more of a training mission where you're infiltrating your own company as part of a security test. But there was a lot of discussions among the team, and a lot of people didn't think we could pull that one off, and ultimately we ended up kind of taking a new direction on it and working in this kind of vein.
It became the walk and talk, and actually was a nice way to have a good show don't tell moment, establishing the world and the characters.
And
right off
it,
the bat.
exactly. And at first I was, because I really liked the original idea, so I wasn't really keen for the direction. But then as I started working on the script, I really did kind of start to like how it shows off the world. But I remember the first draft of the script, I think it was Joe who pointed out that we were putting a lot of technobabble in there, and it sounded
like
much more Star
It sounded like
Trek.
it sounded like it was like a big spaceship that they were running, you know.
So we had to kind of go through extra passes to fix that and to
and
lengthen it.
Here to the right, it's cool. Like we have one of our artists with. He wanted to have an homage to the $6 Million Man, which was really cool and showing off that we're not that young.
That
So-
girl is such a bitch there. Man, stuff she said.
Well, we had to establish all their characters right off the bat as fast as we could. As fast
And
as
it
we
was
could.
another nice addition about having the VersaLife logo. And
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes, and the arm. I remember a lot of discussions about this arm because it plays a very important part later in the game, and we really needed to
show
showcase it. And
that's why he has one sleeve and on the other side
Yeah,
he doesn't
yeah.
have anything.
And I remember also with the artist thinking about what the arm should look like because it
Right.
needed to be recognizable
Absolutely.
for when Tongue would have it, but at the same time we didn't want it to be like, I don't know, just like purple or something, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It needed a subtlety and at the same time something
Yeah.
that you would remember.
That's true. And that scene, like with the Claymore explosion,
That's a
it
cool
took.
part.
It's really cool, but it took so long before it worked. Like the dolls were always staying in the air or not moving or just falling on the ground. It takes time.
yeah.
Pleasures
And
of physics.
if I remember correctly, they're going to get in the elevator now. And there was, I think, a lot of technical issues, first of all, with the elevator. But one of the things that we also wanted to do was we wanted to kind of focus. As they get into the elevator, you'll see suddenly we get the camera shot. And we kind of wanted to have this theme running through the game that this is Eliza who is controlling the cameras and watching Jensen all the way from the start.
Spying and
Spying on you. So here, this was a good moment, and my one regret was it was such a great idea, and I think the cinematic director brought it up,
Yeah.
but then just unfortunately never carried it through with many of the rest of it.
Yeah, it was a very good idea that.
we ended up not really carrying through. Or, you know, we got so
When
much
you've got
to
a
do.
project this big, yeah.
And now
it's
they
hard
talk
to
about
do
the
it.
dog, right? The famous
Oh, that's
dog,
right, the dog. The dog was Adam's dog, yes. That was something when we were working on one of our earliest demos of the game, and we had to fill the world. One of the script writers said we should have this email about Adam's dog, and it should be dead. And I was, you know, at first my reaction to that was, oh, that's terrible, but as long as it's not a cat, it's okay. and
Dogs are fine.
and
They
then
can
we
die.
were able to take that and carry it through much more.
Now we get one of our favorite characters.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. And
Right,
this
for
here,
sure.
like, what is really cool is that, just like a real guy, he just looked very not too subtly to Megan's ass. And like,
Quick
with-
glance at her butt.
Exactly, and I
The
think
fact
it
that
adds
he- yeah.
authenticity to.
Yeah,
Well,
the
it
fact that he
defi-
also did it in front of her ex-boyfriend.
It
and
definitely
everything.
tells you a lot about the character right off the top. Like he hasn't even spoken a word yet, and just that action speaks volumes as to his relationship with Adam.
Yeah.
It's Andreas.
Yes.
Andreas Aspergus.
Yes.
Asparagus did,
Yes.
and actually it was quite fun because I think from a writing perspective we really wanted Pritchard to be this dick, and Andreas was so good. He'd come in and he would do this, and after every take he would finish it and go, God, I hate that guy.
And now we hear the
UNATCO theme.
The UNATCO
Yeah,
theme.
I really thought when I heard what Mike had done, there was a chance right there to kind of bring a little homage to the UNATCO theme, and we felt like this was sort of our new UNATCO, and we wanted to just give a little nod to it, and I found it was a great way to showcase into the beautiful room that John and his team designed here.
Yeah, no, and it worked really well because we just past that point now. But when we first walk into the corridor that leads into David's office, is really one of my favorite parts of the game. Just the way you crescendo with the music at that point, and this is one of my favorite rooms in the game as well. And just everything just culminates together, and it's just like.
It's very emotional.
It's so emotional.
It's really strong.
Yeah. I think for the story, but also for what we try to put together as a team, it's all there, and I think it's very emotional for us as well, just as a in relation to the project, you know.
Right, absolutely.
It's safer and easier than anything you, Darrow, ever did.
Environmental malfunction. Laboratory subsection 6. All lab chiefs, please report in.
We better not take any chances. Not tonight. Use my elevator to get down there. You know the code?
Yeah, 451.
Let me know when you're fine.
Pritchard, where's Megan? She report in yet?
Her GPL implant shows her moving through the microchem labs. I think she's running.
Damn. Must have been a serious hardware failure. Can you get eyes on her?
I'm trying, but the intellicams aren't responding. There's interference coming from somewhere. Find out what's happening, Jensen. Hurry!
Pritchard? Pritchard!
So here in this room, we see for the first time the two Black Ops killing a scientist that he falls off the guards and everything, and that has been a crazy ride just to get this thing working. We were on the verge of cutting it because it was really hard to have those scripted events working with the environment and with the physics and everything. It has been a nightmare, and I fought until the last minute to make sure that we get this in, and finally it worked.
It worked really well.
It was
I don't think most people realize, most gamers, how hard it is just to put things like this. I mean, depending on the engine that's being used, but how hard it can be to have those scripted events going. It's just one guy being pushed over, railings, but it's
especially when you don't have the tools,
and if you don't have the tools.
And on the audio side, we worked really hard. Like for me, it was a huge thing to try and really sense the show don't tell of the terrorist attack happening. So like as you're walking and you're coming across dead bodies and that, I thought it would be cool if we could hear the sort of
the
violence and the killings and all that before you see it, and then when you'd come around the corner you'd see the bodies laying there and it would kind of put it in context. It didn't come out as hot and sexy as I hoped and wanted, but it came out really cool, and again there was certain limitations we had to deal with that was behind it, but the team came together and pulled out something that was really close to what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here we're just before the corner where Fedorova is introduced and she kills some guards. That was a lot of work and everything, but that sequence came quite late during the development, and we realized too late that it wasn't working because we foreshadow it with the two guards being killed at the other end of the corridor. And we thought players would be attracted and see what's lurking beyond the corner. But actually what happened is that most players were scared and they were just taking cover and waiting. Yeah,
because they just saw people like getting gunned down and everything. So
And
obviously your first reflex, is just to kind of hide or whatever.
And then when they were getting on the corner, when they realized nothing was
The
happening,
whole scripted event.
the door was already open. The scientist on the other side of the door was already killed. So like it was and most players it was like that, and we were like, oh no.
And they never got to see Fedorova, and it was so important to try and set her up. And I remember that first animation that they had.
Yeah, it was very a little outside of what we wanted, I think, Fedorova to be, because she, it's a bit of a clumsy sort of scene how it came together, and she sort of dematerializes and then materializes on the other side of the door, and we even thought, like, to try and help that, we put in the sound. If you listen, you can hear like almost the footsteps in the vent of like her traveling to the other side. But then she'd kill the scientists and she'd look at the players and do this kind of almost like Betty Boop sort of like blowing you a kiss, and we're sort of like, it's not really working
and I
for
think
us.
everybody
Hated
was
that
kind of
one.
like, that's not this killer, this silent killer. That's certainly not what she's like.
But in the end, it came out pretty well when you have the opportunity to see it, right?
Yeah, but they changed the
but we
animation.
changed it. That's
what I'm
changed
saying.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we had to see it for a long time.
Yeah.
It really bothered people.
Yeah, I gave up at one point. I thought, this is it. This is what's going to stay.
And I think
now it's
every
good. She
single
just-
one of us went to the animation team and said, you have to change
Yeah.
it. You have to change it.
But
the
now
other-
she just hops over the fence now, right? That's
yeah,
what we,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
and the other problem we had was with the visuals, because she was jumping through the roof air vent, but the hole was so small. Like, how can you fit in that? It makes no sense.
It needs to be at least
three times bigger.
Twice as big. What is this? An air vent for ants? But it sounds. Did we make it bigger in the end?
Yes.
Yeah, and we made it a bit bigger.
A tiny bit.
Tiny bit for more ants.
So the goal of this cutscene was really to surprise the player and get him. And I've always hated that shot of Megan because it makes it look like, what the heck is she doing while this terrorist attack is going on? It's supposed to be, is she a part of it? Whatever. She
still
should have
has to
been
go to the bathroom.
cowering in fear. But for the most part, I think this cutscene did a pretty good job of conveying the horror of what happens to Adam in this scene.
Yeah. I remember feeling bad for him.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost gruesome. Poor guy.
And you can really understand all those augmentations.
That I really hated. I really don't like the green acid. It's like so like Saturday morning cartoons. Like, look, it's all green.
Like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And here Namir is going to come to us, and originally it was supposed to be in gameplay, and actually
We
we
could
had
move the camera and everything.
we had a working prototype, but hey. So yeah, with the opening credits, actually it seems like people really liked it. Our original inspiration was to kind of the James Bond movies, the $6 Million Man's trying to showcase this augmented character and everything, but we wanted it to be really stylish, really like a James Bond movie. Sometimes they go beyond, they go in the abstract.
It's very stylized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So-
It's actually more stylized than what we did almost. But no, it works really, really well. And I think Steve A, the sound, the track that's on it is just completely
Yeah, I think-
insane. By the way, that's a pig. Sorry, I cut you. But when we see the thing cutting the flesh, it's actually a real piece of pig
Oh, really?
that was bought. And,
When I saw the visuals, I mean, I was really impressed. It looked really cool, and I thought it was going to be really important to sort of nail it with the right music tone, because I think something that wouldn't have worked as well might have undersold the power of the scene, but it was really powerful. When I put the music to it with the visuals, I was just kind of like, yeah, this couldn't work any better. Mike McCann, the composer, just really hit this one out of the park, and the reaction we got when people saw it and heard it, they loved it right away. Even I think Goldtooth, the people who produced the
who actually put it together.
They came back right away saying the music track is just, selling this whole thing. It's bringing it all together.
It really was. And I remember the dialogue in this. It's so funny because the dialogue is so short and so simple, but you needed it to convey basically some of the hinting of what's going on with Sarah forcing the augmentations, but also we wanted it to sound like a real surgery and the kind of thing. So I remember giving it to one of the writers on staff and saying, could you kind of write these opening lines and stuff, and he was going on and researching all about operations and CCT scans and all these things, and in the end those little details are so important just to make it and pop it. Even if you can't hear it, it works.
So yeah, Jensen's coming back from the dead, and now is going to come. Well, we see now that Eliza is still watching him,
Yeah.
and now we'll see him close his shades for the first time. Now he's closing on himself.
And he's closing. Exactly. That was the idea, right? That he's kind of now he doesn't really like what's happened to him, and he's a bit kind of
Self-conscious.
he's self-conscious and making a little shield around him from the
And
world.
the eyes are the windows to the soul, but
The eyes
we
are the
cover
windows
them
to
up.
the soul.
Yeah, he protects
Exactly.
himself.
Yeah.
Adam, it's David. You in the building?
Just enter the lobby.
Sorry to pull you out of sick leave so soon, but we've got a situation. A break-in at our Milwaukee Junction factory. Meet me at the helipad.
I have to see Pritchard first. Something's wrong with my retinal enhancement.
Frank's on the second floor in the tech lab. Make it quick. People's lives are at stake.
About time. What happened? You get stuck in an air duct on the way over?
Yeah, nice to see you too, Francis. Something's wrong with my retinal display. Can you fix it?
If it's what I think it is, probably. Of course, it might be. Looks like your left and right imaging processors weren't completely in sync. But don't worry, your Sentinel health implant will kick in soon, repairing any damage that might have caused. Your retinal display should be fine now. Its recognition software won't be picking up hostiles yet, but you should be seeing radar and targeting reticules. Biomedical data too, if you're in pain.
Right. We done here? Because Sarif is waiting for me at the helipad.
I know. Radicals have broken into our manufacturing plant and taken hostages. Maybe this time you'll actually save people.
If you got a problem with me, Pritchard, why don't you just say it and get it over with?
Why no, Jensen? I don't have a problem with you. If anything, I blame myself.
The mighty Pritchard blaming himself. That's gotta be a first.
I'm the one who told Sarif we needed a physical security team to protect us. If he'd read my report closely enough.
Wait a second. Are you saying it was your idea to hire me?
Not you, Jensen. I wanted Dynacore, Sharp Edge, or Bell Tower. All the top private security contractors were on my list, but Sarif wanted somebody in-house. And so did Dr. Reed.
I suggest you leave Megan out of this.
Why, Jensen? It's no secret how close the two of you were. And let's face it, you'd just been fired from SWAT for that massacre in Mexican town. No one was about to hire you.
You really have to stop getting your news from those Picus blogs, Francis. They only confuse you.
The point is, if Sarif had listened to me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But Megan, God love her, always did have Sarif's ear.
Sarif's here is going to be hearing a report about violence in the workplace if you keep this up. You really feel like continuing?
Point taken. As enjoyable as this little chit-chat has been, isn't Sarif waiting for you at the helipad?
Adam, how close are you to the helipad?
Almost there.
Good. Because SWAT's about to turn this into a PR nightmare. Meet me in the chopper. I'll brief you as we go.
Welcome back, Jensen. Didn't think we'd see you around here for a while yet.
You know how it goes, Malik. Duty calls.
Don't I know it? I was in my wingsuit halfway to the top of the Renaissance Center when I got the 911. But you? 6 months is a hell of a short time to come back from the dead. You sure you're ready for this?
Are you suggesting I'm not?
Just asking the question. I was one of the ones who pulled you out of that mess. Not a memory I want to relive, and I don't have to wake up to the reminder of it every day.
I'm fine.
If you say so. The boss is already on board, arguing with the DPD's tactical response team. They've got the plant surrounded, but Mr. Sarif wants you to go in first. You all set here? Because the sooner we take off, the better it will be for everyone. Great. Then let's get airborne.
So yeah, the cutscenes are pre-rendered, but originally we were planning them out to be totally in-game and everything. And as we were progressing and realizing what it would demand and the tools and everything that we didn't have set up properly and everything, we kind of realized that we would never ship the game like that. So we had to rely on the pre-rendered cutscenes.
And there's a funny little thing here at the, if you notice when Jensen comes into the VTOL in the cutscene, he's wearing his jacket, and then when we start inside the plane, he's not wearing the jacket, and it was kind of a big problem where between cinematics and in-game they were saying, you know, something fell through the cracks. So for audio to try and help that out at the end of the cutscene, you actually kind of hear a cloth rustle, and it's supposed to be Jensen taking his coat off and throwing his coat on the floor, to try and help sort of bridge the gap that, you know, it was too late. We couldn't fix the cutscene, and we couldn't put the code on him here. It didn't make sense, so that's kind of how we dealt with that.
And this is a pretty major scene with David Seraph. It's really the first time you ever get to meet him in person. And I remember the casting for David Seraph. We went through a lot of different ideas about what kind of person this should be. Should he be really corporate? Should he be this? And I remember we had a couple contenders, and when Steve Schellen came in, and the way he played it, it wasn't exactly what I was picturing in my head, but I remember going, wait a second, it's like, it totally works, because we wanted a very charismatic guy who's a very friendly guy, but we wanted a corporate CEO kind of guy. And I remember walking out of that casting session going, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? And I think the decision, we did it early enough in the process that the decision to cast him totally affected how we wrote that character from that point on.
I'm not about to take any chances.
Lethal it is. But remember, they do have hostages, and I'd hate to see any of our people get caught in the crossfire. You remember what it's like in there? A lot of tight enclosed hallways. But the labs themselves are pretty open. High ceilings. So, do you want something you can use from a distance, or up close?
Give me something with distance. If I get too close, I'll take them out personally.
Just try not to break anything expensive. The Typhoon should be in the factoring labs, but Pritchard will tell you more as you go in. I've got him running comms.
Terrific. Anything else?
Keep your eyes open for hostages. Free them if you can, but the Typhoon is your #1 priority. We developed it for the Alphabet agencies, and if we don't deliver it to them intact and still a secret, well, I'm sure you'll get the job done right.
Gentlemen, prepare for landing.
So this is pretty funny. You guys have probably noticed already, or will notice, there's paint buckets lying around the entire game, and they're all kind of empty.
All over the place.
All over the place.
Gold.
Yeah, and they're all empty yellow or gold paint, if you want. And the joke behind that is because there's so much yellow, gold, and orange in the game.
Black and gold.
With the black and gold, obviously the 50% of the black and gold. Is the joke is that it's actually people in the world who actually, you know, took up paint buckets of yellow paints and painted the world that way. So it just became a little inside joke, and we started putting these buckets all over the place.
So now you know how the black and gold was made in the
Yeah,
first
it
place.
is not from us. It is from very, very advanced AI that started painting the game to their liking. Really.
So as you continue playing the game, keep an eye out. You'll
Keep an
see
eye
how
out.
many
They're all-
there are.
all-
Yeah.
Jensen, it's me, Pritchard. Where are you?
On a roof overlooking the plant.
Good. Your point of entry should be through shipping and receiving.
Should be, Francis. The hell does that mean?
We have an employee entrance there, heavily guarded by purists, no doubt. So, if you're not a fan of the frontal assault, I suppose you could try accessing the building's roof.
Bridger, I'm in. The door worked just fine.
I'm happy for you. The Typhoon is in the factoring labs. There's an elevator just past the assembly labs that will take you to it.
Got it.
This is the spot, man. Fucking gunshot! Slick!
you, bro.
Well, the room full of lockers.
Yes.
It reminds me of the
hate
good
that
80s
room.
and 90s.
Yeah.
I can't get through that room without having to open every single locker that exists
It's
in that
crazy.
room.
Well, me, I'm like you, but not for the same reason. It's actually like I hate it. I don't want to do it, but I still do it because I want to get the goodies that are inside, and I can't never remember which ones they are. But if I knew, I would just go straight to those ones because there's probably almost 100 lockers in that room.
I don't know. I
For
never
real.
count them, but
There's at least 60.
but it feels like it's a slot machine. Huh? You have to
Yes.
put another quarter. You have to put, and you always hope that you're going to
No.
win some.
Feels like a pain in the butt.
But me, every time I go in this room, I'm like, fuck, I have to open them all.
Yes.
But it was
Exactly.
on purpose. It was kind of a joke, and it was kind of an homage to like all of those old school games where we didn't really care, or we didn't really think if we were putting the players through something that was too cumbersome or too overwhelming.
Right.
So there's just one room like that in the game. I guess it's all
I
good.
think it's the level designer. I don't remember exactly, but I think one day he just made that room, and when I saw this, I started to laugh, and it was so ridiculous.
Jensen, I just tried to unlock the assembly lab door, but my override codes aren't working. Someone's changed the protocols.
What? Didn't you plug the...
I'm on it. But until I find this particular breach and fix it, you'll have to hack the door
Access
manually.
granted.
Pritchard out.
So this is a very interesting room. This is a room that that's very dear to me. It's one of the, early stuff that we designed for the game. This goes back to probably fall.
2008. Yeah.
No, this is like fall 2007, I think.
Are you sure? Oh,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I think so. I mean, it ended up being produced in
Yeah, yeah,
2008
yeah,
for
yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
but I think if it's 2008, it's very early, like right after Christmas or something, right? And so we weren't really sure where we're going with the game at that point, or the locations, and all that kind of stuff. But we knew we had to do the tech demo, right? And this is what we did. And this room, obviously, and the concept art, the idea was it was a tech lab. It was a biotech lab. It's Thierry Doison, of his artist name, Baron Thierry, who did it. Superb concept art. And the idea on Deus Ex is that we wanted to make sure that the visual style was very consistent throughout the entire game, right? It was really homogeneous. And a good way to do this is you make sure that the style that's on the concept art is the style that you want in the game, that there's no like dual standard, you know what I mean? And then what the production artists see on the concept art, they need to reproduce it. I wouldn't say as is, but they need to make sure that the style is
It
the
needs
same.
to stay faithful.
It needs to stay very faithful, And what was interesting is that when that room was first designed, sometimes we'd see, an artist working at his desk, and we'd see what we thought or what we think was a wallpaper of the concept art, on his computer, and then suddenly that wallpaper will start moving.
It was actually
And
the 3D.
it was actually the 3D room. We're like, holy shit, this looks 100% like the concept art. Almost it was one of my first time in all of my in my entire career where I really saw this almost 1:1 ratio between concept art.
It was impressive.
It was very impressive.
And actually, it's the first part, the first press tour ever we did with journalists. That's the tech demo we showed.
That's the first thing we ever shown to the journalists, and they asked us, "What the hell is this engine?" Like, because there was so much of a flavor.
There was a flavor, yeah.
We definitely didn't have the best of engines to do this game. I mean, it's a well-known fact. But because of that style that we put in it, a lot of people were really
Made
kind
it
of
very attractive.
made it very attractive and special. Anyway, and we ended up. This is one of the few very, very early things that we kept and that we recycled, if you want, in the final game. And this is the room that we have here.
Access granted.
Automated dispersal device deactivated. Countdown. Terminated. Have a nice day.
Pritchard, get word to Seraph. I found the hostages.
I'm relaying good news, I hope.
They're safe, and they're staying put. SWAT will have to exfil them as soon as I've got the prototype.
I'll tell Sarif, but don't take too long.
Rolling.
So we're in the hostage room in the manufacturing plant where we have the bomb.
The bomb.
And what is interesting with this one is that there are many ways to defuse the bomb. When you get into the room now, it's booby trapped, so the doors are locking behind you, and now you have to figure it out.
And you have to hack, supposedly.
You can hack. You can also find
the
a code for it, but another way to solve it, and a lot of players didn't know that, but you can actually shoot the tank to the left and the tank to the right, and that's it, because there are kind of gas
the toxic
substance.
Mix is when they mix together in the base of the bomb.
But if they don't mix, there's no problem.
Yes, and I think there's actually, you can shoot the connector that causes them to mix. And I remember being in Los Angeles for one of the hands-on presentations with journalists the very first time that they got their hands to play on the game themselves. And I remember there may have been like 20, 30 reporters, and afterwards everyone was talking, and one of them said, I don't know if this was supposed to happen, but I just shot the bomb and it stopped. And everyone else was looking at him like, you're kidding. I'm like, well, you win the prize. You found the secret way.
Something? For tonight, this is Eliza Cassan reporting to you live. Back now to that breaking news.
Access granted.
So now we are entering into the first SAS zone of this map.
The airlocks.
Yeah, the airlocks. Actually, it's something that we had to add later as we were producing the maps to help the streaming.
Yeah, it's. I think also at that point in the game, we weren't mastering our streaming capabilities as well as we were later on in the game. So basically, it's just your common thing that you see in a lot of games. While this door is locked, we're actually loading the entire room that's in the back, and they were big rooms. Those are the huge lab rooms with a lot of like stuff to do and a lot of stuff to interact with. But what's good about them, and this is how they should be done, is they're thematically kind of inserted. It fits. It's you're in a lab, and this thing looks like it's a place that's gonna, how would you say, Mary, decontaminate you? Is that it? Yeah, decontamination, sterilize you, and so like all the streams and whatnot. So I'm sure for maybe not for everybody, but for certain people, they didn't even realize what was going on. They were just like, oh, cool, I'm having this steam shower, and then the door opens.
Yeah, I just remember me fighting it the longer I could. I was resisting it because I hate those things in general because it's very artificial, and we all know that it's just we have to load the other portion of the map. Yeah. But like you said, it turned out.
Yeah, at least when they're well, thematically incorporated that way, it works in a good way.
I agree. So now we're facing one of the air vents of the game. Actually, the air
One of
vents...
the biggest...
cleanest air vents in the history of games.
Yeah, the air vents are definitely the cleanest air vents in the history of games. That's true. And also, this was probably one of the biggest challenges
with the lockers.
With the lockers of the entire game of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like, you would think it would be like AI or hacking or how to make like a story as complex as the one that Mary pulled off or whatever, but no.
The air vents.
It was the air vents doors.
And they had to be perfect because they're all over the place.
All over the place. The thing is that when you design something like that, and there's a door that needs to open, and you want to make sure that, and especially the air vents, because we would hide them so much, like put crates in front of them or put all sorts of crap in front of them. The way that they open, you want to make sure that it's not going to obstruct these things or obstruct AI or whatever. But at the same time, wanting it to open in a fairly credible way, you know. So we had them that would kind of slide in a spaceship way, like on the side, like, you know, like, which was like, nah, you know, whatever. And eventually, what happened is our lead, Philippe Desrosiers, our lead modeler, which is also has studied engineering and drafting, design, all sorts of things like that. So he's really competent with mechanisms and figuring out how things work. And it might seem very simple when you look at it in the game, and it's like, yeah, this is what, you know, should have been done from the beginning, but it's not always that easy and that obvious. But he ended up thinking about just these hinges that are just kind of pushing the hatch forward and then bringing it upward, and it was that simple.
And that's the final solution. But when you look at how it was made in games before that, like it just opens in a very kind of like a door, but a trap door.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we could have done that, but we had physical objects. You have the characters, and you always have to think,
AI.
Exactly. You always have to think about if the player's going to get stuck, if it's going to damage the experience and whatnot. And sometimes trivial things become really important things that we need.
And I remember when he made that thing, like how happy I was just for a freaking hatch.
We were all happy.
We were just like, oh my god, this is insane. It's like we almost like went out for a beer or something, you know.
Here, another cutscene where Jensen's going to interact with a potential enemy. And I remember having discussion with Jesse Sweet, our cinematic director back in the day, because the constraint I gave him is that I didn't want Jensen in any cutscene with a gun, because we don't know what the player's going to have. And for me, it was really important that the cutscenes were keeping the character that you were building consistent with when we were going into those moments. So for him, it was a real challenge to still have Jensen look badass, and then but not using a gun. And that's why in this one we see with the hacker is that Jensen pulls out his blade from his arm, so it was a way to compensate for the lack of gun.
Adam, it's David. You got the Typhoon?
Yeah, but you were right about there being something more behind this. Because I've also got a dead purist in here with some pretty interesting cerebral implants.
Don't touch him. We'll need an expert to recover his neural hub, in case it's booby-trapped.
Copy that. What about Sanders?
SWAT's pressure me to let them off the leash. Find them before they do, and deal with them.
So here in manufacturing plant, we get close to the bridge where we have the police forces that are fighting the Purity First.
Storming the plant.
Terrorists, they are storming the plant. And I wanted so badly to have this piece of show don't tell where now that the police are pressuring in the facility and everything, but with playtest we saw that most players never really saw what was happening. Like it was too.
It was under their feet.
Exactly.
So
So
a lot of ideas during level design itself. We wanted to have windows. We wanted to show how do we showcase this type of event, but this event was only on paper, so it was very hard to actually make sure that every single player was seeing it, and the whole AI versus AI came very, very, very late, right, Pat?
Yeah, like the AI programmer will probably have a different story to that, but you needed to have a faction system when you need to turn like enemies or NPC, they were neutral and they have to know who they are neutral to and who they can attack. So by having like Jensen like taking control of a turret and say this turret now attacks the enemy has to know who is now like used to be his friend, the turret was a friend, now it becomes an enemy. So we had
Sounds
that
like
as
Facebook.
Yeah, so we had that system, and this is the beauty with Deus Ex, where we built like systemic features, and like then the AI could fight against each other, even if we didn't put too much love. I think it came like at a cost, like of a low cost, but the production might not be impressive, like we wish, like you wish.
One of the concerns as well is that we didn't want to have the player interact with those guys. We really wanted to have AI versus AI and leave them independent. So just because of that, we had to make sure the player was enclosed in a very safe environment. Thus, the infamous corridor with the glass
floor that no woman is ever going to want to walk over.
Why?